the other thing that I was really nervous about was I was like, okay, these guys, this is a real world. This is their, real lives. Everything in there about them is real. It's just my storyline is the fictional part. And I was really nervous about being like, people are going to see this and go, well, they're really interesting, but this guy is an actor and he's fucking phony and all that. And so I was really nervous about that. That was my main focus. Like, how do I fit in their world without taking you out of their world? And that was truly the hardest part.
Back to One with Peter Rinaldi.
Oliver Cooper is an actor. He sat down with me on the Upper West Side of Manhattan to talk about the work.
Do you have a typical way that you like to begin your preparation process when you get a new character?
No.
And in this case, I'm not really necessarily talking about one you wrote.
Right.
We'll talk about that separately.
No, I mean, even this thing is really no different than whether I wrote it or acted in it or just an actor for hire. It's pretty much the same. I mean, at least in my experience. But no, I actually don't, because it's so dependent on the role for me. And maybe that's, actually I was talking to my wife about this. Like, maybe there is some truth to, like, maybe you should treat everything the same. And I think there are some really good actors who are like, look, no matter what the part is, I approach it the same way. I don't. Because a lot of times I get a part where, like, my main focus is just to be really loose and relaxed. Mm-hmm. If I'm doing a comedy and I'm bringing, like, so much of whatever God-given charisma and talent, whatever you want to call it, I just need to be loose. Mm-hmm. And I think, look, no matter what, I don't care if you're playing, David Berkowitz like I did in Mindhunter, or you're playing, this character I did in Project X. Like, there is a level of relaxation that's required to do good work. Yeah. And it doesn't matter what the fuck you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, it really comes down to, I think it's like, and I've taken some acting school and class and all that, and I think I don't really use a lot of what I learned there, at least consciously, other than the relaxation part. So when I'm like, and I think I've been doing this long enough that now if I do something that's in my wheelhouse, I'm like, it's very easy for me to be relaxed, because I don't necessarily care as much. And I say that in a good way.
I know what you mean.
But if I'm doing something where I'm like, fuck, I got an audition for Chris Nolan, I gotta be on my game, and like, I'm nervous and my heart's racing and I'm trying to find, like, I can't act in that space. So I really got to utilize a lot of relaxation techniques, whether that's like some yoga, meditation, like breathing exercises, just like getting out of my own way. So those are the things that's number one. Like, I can't do anything. I don't care how much prep I do. I got to be relaxed. And I do think, like, if there's something that you're playing very much outside of yourself, which I have done some, but not a lot of, that I go into like massive prep because I'm scared. Like the Mindhunter thing was really me, like, was so scared of disappointing a guy that I really admired, and David Fincher. I was really scared of just like failing. And getting fired. Like, those were real fears for me. 'Cause I couldn't believe I got the part. And so in that sense, I did an insane amount of research. I over-prepared. I read everything I could on the guy. I worked with a dialect coach. I went to my acting teacher, who I was like worked on and off with like over the years. And like, I don't have some, like, I'm not like a classically trained actor. So I find whatever worked for me. And I was just like, that was like a lot of like trial and error. Like, let me see, just try it, learn everything. And then like, when you get there, you kind of let it all go, and you don't know. And at the end of the day, you go, did any of that make a difference? I don't fucking no clue. But then you realize, actually, at the end, you go, oh, but that is the one that people do say to me, like, all the time. They'll be like, wow, you're so good in that. And I'm like, well, maybe that stuff that I did really played a big part of that. Had I just gone in like less prepared, maybe it wouldn't have been.
And does that affect how you do future roles then, or how you have done future roles? Like me,
I haven't got as many to do like that. That's the thing. I haven't had as many opportunities to go. Like, look, that part was one of those things where, as an actor, you go, it doesn't get better than that part. Like, now the better part of that, the better part would be that I get to do that for 3 months straight with David Fincher and you're the lead of the movie.
Yeah.
But like for that week that I was working there, that's as good as it gets. You're working with one of the best directors in the world. You're getting to disguise yourself. You're getting to play this complex character. You're getting to work with incredible writing. As far as I'm concerned, that is as good as it gets.
Yeah.
And so it's just a matter of like, that was a one episode thing, not a movie about David Berkowitz.
Did that have any psychological impact on you, playing somebody like that?
Not in the long term.
Yeah.
No, I'm pretty good about not letting that, like, because as soon as I finish with that, I'm very good in my whole life about, I don't hang on to the past too often. I'm not someone who like constantly looks back at like, wow, I really loved that year or that moment or that time. Like, so I think for me, it's really easy to sort of move past things. So as soon as I was done with that, I was like, like I was a relief because I got through it. I thought I did my job.
Didn't get fired.
I had no idea. Well, until I came out, I was like, are they gonna replace me? I mean, that's the anxiety of being an actor. But
so even when you're done and you think you did a good job, you're thinking, oh, they'll edit me out.
I was like, well, I'd heard so many, it's funny because I you do those, the way that show worked was that you'd be there with another serial killer because they would be doing like he's the next episode, and there's so much prep work on with David Fincher. And so I hung out with the other serial killer in the next episode. He ended up getting replaced, and we became friends. And so afterwards, he told me like he shot and replaced.
God.
And then on top of that, like a few other people were replaced. And so
that's got to freak you out then. So that's
where
paranoia.
That's where that came from a little bit. So you're just like, God, did I do a good job, or was it like And he told me his experience was crazy. Like so it's like that's always in the back of your head. And look, there's always a part of you. And I was just listening to an interview with Seth Rogen. And you can't get more successful than that. Yeah. And I was like, even he had the fears that you're not like, you're not good, or you're not good enough. And like, look, that's a constant, Right. I would be lying to you if I felt like secure and that my career is going to always flourish, or I'm going to be, I'm nervous that it's over every time I do a job. So
all great actors say that.
And it's true. I'm not saying it to be, I mean, obviously like maybe it's harder to believe if Tom Hanks says it, but if look,
but even Willem Dafoe said it on the show. Dafoe said it.
That's kind of crazy. I think he's all right. But look, you never know. You never know. Like I actually go back to this thing that a friend of mine said. A guy, not really even a friend, but a guy I was working with. We were doing a movie, and he was like a writer, comedian type. And he told me that he was working on like some show that Louis C.K. was going to star in, and somebody else, and I think it was like Albert Brooks. And this is 10 plus years ago, and he goes, or around 10 years ago, and he goes, Louis was talking like, look, if it all goes away, I always have my stand up. I'm like, he's flying on private jets at that point. And I was like, it all goes away. I'm like, he's Louis C.K. Like, it's the biggest thing ever. Like, how he can do whatever he wants. There's no one's saying no to him. He's incredible. And then like a month later, it was like, it did all go away. So I was like, fuck, maybe he's wow, that's to you. I was like, shit, everybody's replaceable. I mean, you look at Kevin Spacey, you look at, they, it's self-inflicted a little bit and whatever, but it's like you can't take it for granted. You also don't know your health is everything. Like walk down the street, I have a stroke and it's over. That's
right. It's not insane. And how did you get into this line of work anyway? In the beginning, I heard that you landed Project X on your first audition.
Yeah. So I'll give you a little backstory. Yeah. I started doing stand up when I was a senior in high school, and I don't remember what the impetus was specifically. I think it was one of those things where I had read an article. I do remember reading an article about Adam Sandler or watching some video or something, and he was talking about how he started stand up when he was in high school, And I think I want to say that was what like put it in my head, like, oh, like I'm funny in my life, and like everyone always laughs at me. I was like, maybe there's something there. And I didn't know nothing about stand up. Like at that point, I wasn't even a big like I knew stand up obviously, but I wasn't like an obsessive stand up comedian person. But I watched Saturday Night Live. I loved movies. I always loved movies. That was one thing. But I didn't like ever think, oh, that's my career path. It was just, oh, I love movies, you know, like anybody. And so when I decided I'm going to do stand up, it was like I did it once and I was like, this is it. Like this is like, and it wasn't that I was like incredible. Actually, I bombed the first time I did. I had like a whole 3-minute act, and I halfway through it, I got a laugh, and it just like threw me off because I'd been running it in my bathroom, so I didn't like it. Just I was like, oh, and then I just blanked out, and I walked off stage. My dad was there with a video camera because it was like you had to be 18 or 21 or 18. I can't remember. I don't even think I was 18. But you had to be 21, I think, to get into the club. So I had to be escorted with my dad.
Wow.
But I think that was a part of it I loved. When I started to get into it, I went to Ann Arbor, I'm from Toledo, Ohio. It's like 45 minutes. And I started to like, I just had my license at that point. So I started to like drive around, and I'd go to different comedy clubs, and I got in the scene, and I was like so much younger than everybody else. And it felt kind of exciting. I was like the young, guy in this world, and I was trying to find my voice, but I was good enough, and I was like, it's not that hard to be funny like on stage when you're that young. It's like anything you say, the audience is kind of like supportive of you. So I got really into that, and then from there I was just like, I was obsessed. I was like, I gotta do this, and I was delusional. I was like, I'm gonna be a huge star. I'm gonna be like Eddie Murphy. You start thinking crazy that. Yeah. And then I moved out I went to college for a year in Arizona, and I got into the scene there, and I was doing it even more, and I was like really...
Wait.
Yeah.
When you want to do this, what do you go to college for then?
I went to college only because I had to go to college. My parents made me. I'm a Jewish guy, Jewish parents.
And what was your major?
I was... I think I was going to do education because I thought I would be a teacher. I was like, that seems like easy. You get the, summers off. But my sister, the only reason I went there, I was not a good student. I was like smart, but I was never really tried very hard, or just like kind of was like, whatever, ADD and stuff. So I had like decent grades, but the test scores were bad. So I just like got in nowhere. And like, so I was like waitlisted at Arizona State, which is like, it's actually kind of hard to achieve that. And so I ended up getting in like last minute. My sister was living there, and it was like, for me, it was like, felt close enough to California. Yeah. So I was like, oh, okay. Like my brother was living in LA. I was like, I could drive to LA and, do stand up in the weekend or something or whatever. And anyway, so I went there, I got into the scene there, started doing that, like weekends I would go, and I actually opened for a couple of the comedians that came through. They had like good comedians, like they would like, I was so relentless. I think that was the thing about me at that age. I was so like, I was like, how do I get around that red tape, like I want to figure out a way to open, like how do I open for Nick Swartzen, who's coming here? I didn't get that one, but they ended up letting me open for the guy who won Last Comic Standing, this guy Josh Blue, and I opened for someone else, doing 20-minute sets, like, which was, I had to really stretch to get 20 minutes. And I was like, I wear a suit, and I was like, I loved that part of it. And then from there, I knew after my first year, I was like, I hated school. I wanted to get out like the second I got there. I remember telling my mom that I was like, I'm done. After the first day I showed up, I was like, I don't think this is for me, this place. There's kids like riding by on skateboards in the hallway. I was like, I'm not cool enough for this school, the girls were way too hot, guys were way too good looking. And it's funny, actually, they put you share, you have your roommate, and then you share like a little suite with another 2 roommates. And our little space we were like the 4 outcasts. Like no one else was, everyone else was like hot and good looking. They're like, these guys are ugly, let's throw them together. These guys look like losers. Let's put them in this corner. But
They'll take care of each other.
I didn't like school. I didn't even get along with those guys that well. I mean, okay, like I just never was like really like comfortable, and I was like didn't like it. But the stand up thing was working out. Like I was like into that world and doing these weird gong shows, and like the open mic world's crazy, and especially in places like Arizona. And so I started doing more, and I got like 20 minutes. And then that summer I came back, and I wanted to move to New York actually, because I was like, I'm dropping out of school. I decided I'm dropping out of school, and which felt like amazing. Like once I decided that, I was like, oh, that's like, that feels right. I need to like go to a different school or just stop going to school. It's just not for me. And I was going to go to New York. I came down here, looked in Bushwick at a place, and I was like, I felt internally like, this is going to be this is going to be a huge adjustment for me. I'm 19 years old. I'm a young 19. Like, this is going to be a tough place to, I don't know anyone in New York. And then my uncle had passed away, like kind of tragically that summer. And it kind of like shook things up in my family, and like I had a huge blowout with my dad. And at that point he told me, why don't you go to LA? Your aunt's out there. She was a flight attendant. She needed some help with like her dogs. So, and she's like, you can live there for really cheap, because he wasn't going to support me at all in New York. He was like, I'll help you with your rent 1 month, and then you're on your own.
Wow.
And that's tough for a kid who's not used to that. You know, it's a tough place to like, you know, really just go out there with nothing, and try to make it. I don't know if I would. Sometimes I wonder what my life would be like. Either I would have really, really succeeded, or I would have been like failed miserably. And then once I was out in LA, I dove in so hard. I was like going to screenwriting classes, acting classes, stand up every night, like multiple open mics a night. Like I was like, I'm going to give it everything I have, you know, all that stuff. And through that, I had met a guy named Sean Weiss, who was Goldberg the goalie in the Mighty Ducks movie. This is probably like 6 months into me kind of doing all that. And living with my aunt. It was kind of, look, it wasn't like a great time in my life, because it was like kind of, I was living with my aunt, taking care of her dog. She had double hip replacement surgery. I'm like putting on her socks, making like,
this is a film that you need
sort
to
of
make.
Made a film about this, actually. Sort of, called Four Dogs. That was the first movie.
I need to watch Four Dogs.
First movie that me and Joe, the director, made. And so I was like, kind of like, it was kind of this weird place, and I'm trying to find myself, and I'm like, still like, you know, I still don't know who I am or what I'm like, you know, you're so lost a little bit. And like, I didn't have any friends, like, you know, it was a tough time. And so, I meet this guy, Sean Weiss, who was Goldberg the goalie from the Mighty Ducks movies. And became this like, this part is actually the part that's probably more like a movie. It was this sort of unlikely friendship we had. And I knew him. I just knew like, oh my God, there's a guy who was on TV. And I was like, and he at that time I was so young and naive, I didn't realize it, but he looked really bad because he had a drug problem, but I didn't even realize what a drug problem looked like or was. So I started hanging out with him and his dad. They lived in the Valley in LA, and they had like he was constantly late on rent. I had to help him sell his Mighty Ducks jerseys, like, so he didn't get evicted by the sheriff. He had this dog, and like, it was constantly trying to like, you know, buy like groceries or buy, you know, whatever. And it was like, he became like a mentor, and I was like, this guy's brilliant. And I believe that he was, for me, it was really just like, wow, he's so brilliant, and he believed in me. He was the first person to really believe in me. And he was like, you know, he was like, Oliver, you're super funny, and you are like, you have this thing, and like, he really got my confidence, and he kind of helped me cultivate a voice. And I had found out in an acting class simultaneously that they were doing an audition for this movie called Project X that Todd Phillips was producing, who did The Hangover. And it's funny, this guy in the class was probably like 40. And he was like, they're everyone's auditioning. They're auditioning, like, you can send a video in of, you know, tell a story. And I was like, really? That seems crazy. And also, I'm like, you're 40 years old. How no one's gonna cast you as a high school kid? And so I didn't tell him that, but I was thinking it. And then I went across the hallway to the main part of the acting school, and there was this kid that I knew who was more my age, and he was actually he had kind of one of those like kind of agents, but like those there's these like crappy agents that are like not even real agents, but they're agents. Yeah. And he had one of those guys, and so he was actually going on some auditions, and he had an audition he was working on, and I was like, what are you working on? He's like, I got an audition for this movie It's Todd Phillips movie. And I was like, oh shit, you have an actual audition. Like, and so I was like, wait, put that together. And I'm like, do you mind if I make a copy of these? Which is also probably pretty insane to tell that. You don't really do that. But I was like, whatever. I didn't even think about it. So I made a copy of them. He's like, cool, yeah. And I go to Sean, who was the only person I knew in the entertainment industry. And I go, can you get me an audition for this?
Wow.
And he goes, I got you. And he was kind of that guy. He was just like, no matter what, we're going to do it. And it cut to like 2 weeks of me and him. I filmed the audition. This is well before self-tapes were a thing. Filmed the audition. He sent it to like the casting office. They, of course, ignored him or just were like, hey, thanks, we'll take a look. But they weren't going to fucking take me seriously. And we snuck on the Warner Brothers lot because I had a guy that I knew that worked there, got us like a pass. Like he just was like had a regular job there. And we were just like, I don't even know what we were thinking. I had no idea what our plan was. And I was like, I just had it in my head, and I would go to his house every single day. He'd be like passed out in his room from drugs, but I didn't even realize it. This is the craziest part. And I kind of feel bad about this, but I was in acting class at this time, right? And Sean had told me, I'm getting you an audition for this movie, Project X. And like, obviously, like in that world, they knew it was the movie that everyone's auditioning for. Yeah. I told you, like, kids are hearing about it and all that. So I was like, yeah, I'm getting an audition. Sean, my friend Sean's getting me an audition. And 2 weeks go by, I have no audition. But like, they asked me again, they're like, so did you get the audition? I'm like, yeah, I got it. Because I was like, fuck, put in the corner. And then I had to keep this lie going, which is just crazy. So I was like, they're like, I got a call back. Tell everyone I got a call back. Like, it got to that point, I was like, Sean, where's this audition? I'm freaking out here. I lied to everybody. Which is fucking insane. Wow. And then, mind you, I'm not even on anyone's radar. And this is the part that gets crazy and why I've always like wanted to write this into something. But he goes to Judd Apatow, who he did Heavyweights with, Freaks and Geeks. I think he had a small part in that, and he's known him for years, but they weren't like friends, They hadn't like talked in a long time. And I really give Sean a lot of credit for this, and like I can't believe he did this. And it shows like how he did really believe in me. Yeah. He goes and reaches out to Judd Apatow and asks for a favor from him, which is insane. I don't know who does that. Wow. And he goes, Sean goes, Judd goes, you want to ask your last favor for a friend.
That's real.
That's a 100% true story. And Judd, he just probably has his office assistant call. Like, it's not like Judd's calling or whatever. Yeah. He has his office assistant call, say, hey, this guy Oliver Cooper, you should see him, to the casting office.
Yeah. But wait, Sean wrote back, yes. Yeah. My last. Yeah. First of all, that's a fucked up thing to say to somebody. Your last. Like.
Well, I don't know how many times he had reached out before. I have no idea, but I don't know. I didn't know their relationship, and so he goes and so Judd's like, who's his manager, or who's and he's like, he wrote down this guy. His name was Jeff. He was a manager who had represented Sean at some point, and it was a guy we had reached out to, like, hey, can you get him an audition? I'm sure this guy Jeff's like, fuck are you talking about? Like, fuck off. Like, but yeah, sure. And like, just like everybody in Hollywood's doing this bullshit. And so Jeff gets a call from the casting office. Oh, and he goes, hey, we have an audition for Oliver Cooper. He's like, Oliver Cooper? What? Who's this guy? And then he puts it together. He's like, oh my God, Sean. He's like, Sean, like, okay, your guy, somehow you got an audition for, for this movie. So I go in and he's like, yeah, just write Jeff's name down on the casting thing. So I do. And then I go in there and I was never been on an audition in my life, not for a commercial, not for anything.
Oh my God.
And I'm reading for the main character in the movie, and I go in there and I do my thing, and I pulled down my pants in the audition because I had my tighty whitey underwear on, because I thought that the character, it was in the bathroom, and it was like a drug, like his friend's giving the other friend drugs, like, come on, you got to take this, it's going to be good, whatever. And I thought the character was taking a shit for some reason, but really they were just like hanging out in a bathroom stall giving each other drugs. So I thought it would be funny to pull down my pants, and everyone told me not to do that, but I did it. And Sean actually gave me, like, he would go to the auditions with me. He was looking all strung out and all this stuff, but he'd go to the auditions with me, and he's like, tell them when you walk in, the whole thing was they were looking for no names. He's like, tell them, I heard you guys are looking for a nobody. You found me. That was like that was the opening line. He's like, get him a laugh off the top. And so I would go. He was my little road manager guy, and we, I went and like the casting guy was like, Oliver Cooper, where the fuck have you been? Because they've been searching all over for people, and I was just like this ballsy, crazy maniac. And he's like, you're not right for this, but you're perfect for this other part. He's like, can you take 10 minutes and go out there and just look at the thing? So I did. I come back, and he just is like, oh my God, okay, great. It's like, and then next day I'm like going in to read with the producers.
Wow.
And I go into the producer session, and I bombed.
Wow.
I bombed. Like I just wasn't. I didn't even know how to memorize lines well enough. I was so green. And so I remember riding home with Sean. It was so sad. I'm like listening to Carole King on the way home. Like, it's too late, baby, now. And I'm sorry, my voice is horrible.
And you will never hear that song again.
No, I love that song.
Without thinking of that.
That's true, but I love that song. And I love Carole King. And so I'm like sitting there, I'm like, I blew it. How did I blow it? I thought we had this, It was like, like Sean had told my mom after I called my mom, tell her I got this audition, I killed it, they loved me. And this is just the casting office, and Sean gets on the phone with my mom. He's like, your son's gonna be a movie star. Like, it was like insane. We were just so reckless with our emotions. And so I bomb this audition, go home, and I get a call from this guy Jeff, and he's like, hey, like, they want you to come back in again tomorrow.
Wow.
But like, be prepared. They're giving you another chance.
Wow.
And so I had ADD, like I said. I had an Adderall. I took an Adderall, and I was like, I'm going to drill these lines in, make sure I memorize, whatever. And Sean took one too. He wanted one of my Adderall, so I gave him an Adderall. We're in the park, at Encino Park, and we're just running the lines and just like manically running the lines. And the next day, I go to pick up Sean because he's my wingman, and we go there, and he has a seizure in the parking lot.
No way.
And I have to call the ambulance, and he's like, I can't, the ambulance kind of comes to and all this, and he's like, I can't. He's like, he's like, I can't even afford to get in the ambulance. So I take him to his apartment, and I drop him off, and we have this like Yoda moment.
This is a movie.
Yeah, it's crazy. This is so crazy. It's like it's so unbelievable. It's hard to. It's like the craziest story to like for booking a movie. So I go. Sean gives me like you got this, kid. I took you as far as I could.
Wow.
And so I just got like a shiver down my spine.
Yeah.
I don't tell this story too often because it's a long story. But I drop him off. I go to the audition. And I crushed it. And then they were like, hey, stick around for Todd Phillips. And that was the audition that really helped me book that part. Like I was just, he asked me to do stand-up in the audition, which I'm always like, nah, you go sit. But I was like, I'm going to do it for him. And I do it. And I do a joke for him. It was like about Phoenix Online. And that was my big joke at the time. And from that moment on, like I knew Todd, like I just won him over.
Yeah.
And he was like, even I remember when we were doing like chemistry reads and stuff, he asked me after, he would be like, who do you like? Who are the guys that you like? Not that he cast any of those guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was just like, it was just a whirlwind. It was 9 auditions. It was like a 2-week period. It was insane. And then I had to wait another, like, I remember I went home. I was like, I need to go home and like to Ohio and just like reset and like process what the fuck I just went through the last couple of weeks. Lying to these kids in my acting class, and now I'm actually up for it, and like all this stuff, and like Sean having a seizure, and like, and it was just.
Did he end up being okay?
Yeah, he ended up fine. He was fine. It was just like something. I didn't realize he had like, he's sober now, and if you look him up, he's had his struggles and things. But like the truth is, like I remember going to his apartment to like check on to see if we got an audition. This was before I got the audition, and he was naked, passed out in his room. And his dad Charlie's in a wheelchair and like in the living room. God. And I'm like Sean, I'm like, what's going on? Did they get back to you? Give me an audition? I had no idea. I'm like, and people wrote him off. This is like my biggest lesson, and I always try to. I think it's actually why I made this movie, Bert. Like not directly, but it's like why I'm interested in these kind of stories, and I always have been. I love people that are written off in life.
Yes.
And I think Sean was one of the first ones that showed me, like, I remember going to the Comedy Store with him, and they were like guy from Mighty Ducks, like loser, like, or whatever, like looked at him, he's a has-been and never was, whatever. Like, I'm not saying they would say that, but that was the vibe. And for me, being naive, young, I was like, no, this guy's a genius. And he was one of the smartest people I've ever met. He was like, look, his career fell apart not because of his talent. It fell apart because of choices that he made, and like and he had a tough upbringing and stuff. But it was
what a formative relationship.
Unbelievable.
I mean,
unbelievable formative relationship, and it was so brief.
Yeah.
It was really like this year of my life.
Amazing.
And it was so from then on out, I've
Wait, do you think that being in that state when you like having to drop him off there and going to that audition with the pressure on, do you think that helped you? Because sometimes you go through something like that, and it shifts you, and your priorities are a little different, and you could then crush it.
Yeah.
Whereas if you were all balled up, you maybe
you saying that's the first time I've ever considered it, but there might be some truth to that. I don't remember where I was mentally at that point. All I know is I was just so driven and so insanely, like, for whatever reason, I knew in my heart, like, I believed it, that I was the right guy for that, and like there's no way they could find somebody better than me. And there was probably some delusion in that, but you need that delusion.
Yes.
And it was, it's an insane. It's truly. I find it hard to. You'd find it hard pressed to find a better story of like breaking into the industry, because from that point on, I went like CAA signing me. I mean, it was it was like that kind of crazy experience. And
how was the experience on that set the first time?
Incredible. I mean, it was like I was. Look, I felt like the guy. Like, it was. They made me feel like I was like really bringing something. They rewrote the character. I went in like, I don't know, this time. I think I was maybe because I loved Goodfellas. I had this like New York accent. Like, I'm not from New York, but people do think I'm from New York. Maybe it's like the way that when I talk, like, kind of excited, and maybe I have like an East Coast thing or something. So, or I was like channeling Joe Pesci or something. I don't know. And so I get the script, the revisions, and they made this character from Queens, and they made this New York thing that like I went in there with, that like was like really just because I didn't know what I was doing, and probably just channeling Joe Pesci. And then the craziest part is I had so many little weird things that make me emotional to think about it. But like, I had this sweater vest that my mom had bought me for like Hanukkah one year, and I never wore it. It was like ugly, and it was like, but I thought it was like a nerdy thing to wear. So when I was going for the lead character, I was like, oh, he's a sweater vest with a t-shirt under it, like I'll wear that. And I wear it, and when I went for my callbacks, even though it was a different character, I just kept wearing it because it became a superstitious thing. And I would go to the dry cleaner, even though there's no reason I needed to dry clean this every time I wore it. And so I would go to the dry cleaner down the street from my house, and they became like so invested in this thing too. Wow. They were like, again, you got a call back. I was like, yeah, here you go. Dry clean this thing that I wore for 10 minutes. And so it became this weird thing. And then the real like thing that tied it all together was when I got the part, I show up to Warner Brothers for a fitting, my first fitting. And there's like 250 sweater vests. Wow. Different colors, different shapes. Wow. And so I'm wearing all these sweater vests. I'm like, and the sweater vest has become an iconic part of that character.
That's amazing.
So like, to the point where like people are like, if I, when they, like, yeah, where's your sweater vest or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's such a, like, it's truly makes me emotional thinking about it, because it's just such a weird, like, kind of belief in yourself and a belief in, and just kind of teaches you that lesson, like, don't judge people, like, it's you never know. And like, and I've carried that with me throughout, where I've always, some of the people that I've meant the most to me in my career, in my life, have been ones that, you wouldn't think,
right. After that, then, were you thinking, I have to like get a hold of this now, because now I got this thing jump started? Were you thinking like, I need to have a plan, a trajectory here, or were you just ready for whatever comes along? So
I didn't have a plan. I it was kind of that's where things get a little complicated, because it was like, I do this movie. Look, I also, when I first got this movie, I came in like 10, 15 minutes into the movie, and the day before the shoot, they were like, we want you to open the movie. And so they rewrote all this stuff for me. And so all of a sudden I'm like the lead of this movie. I'm like the guy in this movie, and like really the driving force. And so and afterward, and Todd, like I said, Todd Phillips was really cool to me. And like afterwards, he said some really nice things to me. He's like, all these agents are calling about you. He's like, I tell them you're the guy to get from this movie, or calling about the movie. So I tell them you're the guy to get from this movie. He's like, you're unlike anything seen in comedy before. You're not like Jonah Hill. You're not like Michael Cera. And I honestly believe that. And I remember it verbatim because it was such an insane thing to say to a 20-year-old kid. And I don't even believe it. Like nowadays, I'm like, there's definitely people that are like, there's been incredible comedians and people, and I don't even consider myself in that world. But like he was, whatever, he saw something in me that I didn't even see in myself, and that maybe I have never even lived up to in a lot of ways. That still kind of maybe is my driving force to keep going sometimes. But so after that, I met with all these agents and I signed with this huge agency, but I had whether I had talent or not, that's maybe obviously I had something. I was so green. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to audition. I didn't know how to like break down a script. I didn't know how to break down a character. Like there was so many things I didn't know. So it became one of those things where now I got all this confidence, and it's like I went in with all this confidence, and now it's like interesting. My confidence is reassured.
Yes,
but I'm like, yep, I was right. I'm the man. I'm a star. But the truth is, I didn't have the experience. Like I was really barely better than an open mic comedian, if that. And I was not a seasoned actor by any stretch, So it was one of those things where I would go in and I was a little messy, and I was a little like I was like trying to catch that magic again, and I had a hard time for that first year, and it really I think the agency was like, what's going on? Like who like is this guy really the real deal, or is this and from there it was just it slowly my career became like, I just got to become a working actor, and I got to get good at this. I got to get better at this. So I was making that movie Four Dogs that I did with my friend Joe. I was doing short films, and I was trying to find my voice, and then I got lucky. I got Californication. I got the season arc in Californication, which really was a great job because it helped me, be on a good show, good writing, and like practice my craft in a full season. And then I got to do this movie called Runner Runner, which was a great script. And I went in there and auditioned, and I booked, I did the thing and I booked it, but the movie really didn't turn out very good. It was with Justin Timberlake and Ben Affleck, but it was supposed to be good because the director was coming off a really good movie. The screenwriters did Rounders. It was a poker movie. It was like everything I loved, got to go to Puerto Rico and make it. And like, I was in it. I was thinking like, this is going to be it. And then it just, it wasn't like I was getting offers.
Right.
So it was like I still had to just be
still something to prove in a way, but you were also trying to build your own craft. Now. Yeah. At what point did you meet Joe?
Joe and I, my brother grew up with Joe in Ohio. And so when I went to LA, I was, and Joe was the kind of kid who made films when he was like 6 years old. And so when I went to LA, like Joe was going to AFI, and I think at that point where I was like, I want to like learn how to write stuff and make stuff and all this. And he was like a guy who was doing it. So I was like, hey, let's like hang out and let's get to be and I was almost like trying to convince him, because he didn't know me from like anything. He didn't know, like, that was before Project X even came out. I was like I'm good, like I could do stuff, trying to convince him to help me make things. And so that's kind of how that started.
What did you do? Like pitch him the idea of Four Dogs?
That by the time we did Four Dogs, we had done this like short web series before that. We had done what happened is we did this short film of a lonely guy living in his apartment in a house. I lived in this house with my brother and a few friends, and they all went out of town, and I was there, and I was always kind of a weird kid and like doing voices and like we're all weird on our own, And I was like introspective and like trying to. I thought it was interesting to like explore how we are alone and loneliness, because I always had an element of loneliness that's been in my life, and I think it's interesting to watch on screen. And so it was really exploring the loneliness of this guy stuck in this house, this big house alone, and like calls a hooker up, and it was just really like simple little like very art house, pretentious in some ways movie. And so, but like I remember a lot of people like my agent really loved it, and like it explored a side that I wasn't getting. I wasn't Project X, and it was interesting.
That's always good to do stuff like that.
Yeah,
right? To show what you can do.
It was great. And so from there, it was Four Dogs was like, let's do something, because at that point I wasn't living with my aunt, or maybe I'd actually moved back. I lived with my aunt. I moved out, spent all my money, and then moved back with my aunt. That's what happened. And so I was living back with my aunt. The movie hadn't come out yet, and I hadn't booked another big gig or gig that could pay the bills. So I was like, let's make this movie Four Dogs, and we raised $25,000 at the time, and it was really just about me living with my aunt. And it was kind of capturing the first time I lived with my aunt. It wasn't a guy waiting to have this big movie come out. It was a guy that was like, going to acting class, but he didn't really fit in anywhere. And he's taking care of his aunt, and he's feeding these dogs, and he's sad and miserable and like trying to find himself. So that was it wasn't much more than a mumblecore movie in that sense.
Why did it take you? I mean, I can't wait to watch that movie now that I've seen Bert. I'm ashamed that I should have watched it before. Being said that I'm such a fan of Bert, I will definitely check
it out. It's interesting. It's not as story driven, which I think hurt us in some ways, where it's like there's a little story there, but it's more of the whole idea is a fly on the wall of this guy's life. And I think people did love that. And Dan Bacadol, great actors in it. But it's not a very, it didn't conventional audience, didn't capture a conventional audience.
Yeah, fuck them. Why did it take you guys so long to make another movie?
That's a great question. I think what happened was Four Dogs didn't make any money. We did a lot of other stuff. We did a lot of short films. And we had we were trying to make something bigger, and at that same time also I was working. I was like making a living at that, because after I did Californication and Runner, I did start to go on a little bit of a string of just because I kind of got that thing where I didn't become the movie star that I wanted to become. Like I wasn't like the Jonah Hill that I like, or the Seth Rogen, or the Adam Sandler, or whatever. This wasn't where my career went. I was just a working actor, and I was an auditioning actor, and I was actually more than okay with that, because I felt like I was actually like proving to myself and to everyone else, like I can do this. I can work. And so I just started working a lot, and I got the show Red Oaks, and I was doing stuff that I enjoyed, and I was making a good living at that, and I was busy, so it just didn't, and the things that we were trying to develop were bigger. We had this movie that we were trying to make with Nicolas Cage, and he was never attached. We wanted him to do it. And
everybody's got one of those.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's got that big movie that never. Nicolas Cage doesn't even know it existed. But so we were trying to make bigger stuff, and it was, we had put Bert in a short film, and we had always had this like idea of like, man, he's such this character. I knew him from open mics back when I was doing stand-up. Joe knew him from this place called The Old Place in Malibu, where he played music, and so we just threw him in this short film because we thought he was quirky and weird and fun, and he crushed it. And from there, we for years we talked about, hey, we should do something with Bert, and we did that short film with him in like 2017, 2018, and so it took us like 8 years from that point to pull the trigger on this movie. And I think it was just like both of us were like, man, like we're just not getting the opportunities. Like all the shit we develop is just worthless. Like it's not getting made. No one cares. I can't get my agents to really give a shit. I was like, let's just make this. And then I, like I said, I was talking to you earlier. It's like I did this movie in Wales that they made it for nothing. They made this 5-day movie, $50,000. I was like, we could do something. We don't even need that kind of money. Like I'll pay for it. Let's just go. Let's do it.
Bert is an incredible, incredible character. But how close is that character to the man himself?
He is.
That's amazing.
He is. Look, Bert is, one thing about Bert that's always fascinated me. From the time I met him, I never, there's certain people you meet in life where you just, even if you don't see them regularly, you just kind of, they're always in your mind. Yeah. And he has this, he always had this really optimistic personality where he believed he was going to make it as a musician. Like he believed he was going to be a star. And obviously as a dreamer myself, you know, it's like there was always something appealing to it. And he was really good too. His music was always really good, but he was playing like Bob Dylan era songs. He's not a business savvy guy, which you kind of have to have in whether you're in Hollywood or in the music industry. Like you kind of have to have that, like, I'm gonna figure out a way to break in. Like, but he's the kind of guy who's been out here since like 1978. Never really made a full album. Never, never really had much real success. And you know, and that kind of music just not the type of music that a record executive's looking for. So he always had this beautiful optimism about him, and it was that made us go, like, there's just something infectious about his personality. That we were like, let's capture that. And then he got Parkinson's. And it was like, well, if we don't make this movie now, we're never going to be able to make this movie because it's only going to get worse. And so that was really what kind of let's go. And his roommate, Steve, in real life.
That's his real roommate.
It's his real roommate. And that's a real dynamic. And that's, and so it was like finding, we felt like we found this gem of a world.
It's gold.
This is gold. Yeah, we were just like, this is a golden world. So beautiful. There's they're dynamic. They couldn't be more opposites. For people who haven't seen the movie, Steve is like this, like, kind of like, you know, antagonistic, like, bitter, angry guy, but also at the same time, and talks down to Bert, but others at the same time, there's genuine love. Like, nobody cares more about Bert than he does, and vice versa. And so their dynamic was so perfect for like a buddy duo on a movie. And it was just trying to figure out how I fit into that world. And you know, we had different ideas. Like, at one point I was going to be his like, I don't want to give away the movie, but we had a different version of that character that I was going to play. And the other thing that I was really nervous about was, I was like, okay, these guys, this is a real world. This is their, real lives. Everything in there about them is real. It's just my storyline is the fictional part. And I was really nervous about being like, people are going to see this and go, well, they're really interesting, but this guy's an actor and he's fucking phony and all that. And so I was really nervous about that. That was my main focus. Like, how do I fit in their world without taking you out of their world? And that was truly the hardest part.
That was the brilliant part of this thing, Oliver. Really.
No, thank you.
That you could have really fucked this up. I mean, there's so many ways that this could have been.
Yeah.
I need to go on for a second about this movie for a second, because I need to say this. There's a version of this made by less talented people, where they have these two amazing people.
Yeah.
And they squeeze the hell out of this and tighten it.
Yeah.
And put them on screen and force them to do things, and none of their charm is there.
Right.
And you guys didn't do that. That's the miracle.
Yeah.
But then the other miracle is you have to do so much hard work in this movie with them.
Yeah.
To fit in with them and to be just as effective
as them,
and you did it, man.
Oh, thank you.
Like,
that means a lot.
This is so hard. It's so hard because, like, I'm ready to press stop on a machine. I'm ready to leave a theater. So when I see something work like this, I'm like, wow, this needs to be cherished and lifted up.
That's beautiful. Thank you for saying that.
I mean it.
I appreciate that, and I can tell that you mean it, and that means a lot. That really was like my main focus. And so when I did like work on this movie, prep on this movie, I was working with the woman that plays my aunt, who was my acting teacher.
Yeah.
Her name's Caitlin Adams. She's fantastic.
Incredible too, yeah.
She's amazing in the movie, and she only worked one day.
Wow.
But we created a lot of backstory and like, and I think it was like kind of like stripping the character down and going, look, Oliver, just talking to myself, like, don't try to do too much. Just be the point guard. Facilitate this,
Boom.
And that was what, like,
Boom.
I really, it's funny because, you go as an actor, you're like, all right, I'm going to write my own movie. I'm going to make my own movie. I'm going to star in it, and it's going to be my vehicle. And it's funny, I didn't approach it in that way. I actually was just like, here's a really cool thing. This is not the movie that I write if I'm like, I'm going to create my star vehicle. for myself. There's like other characters I could do that were like, if I want to like just chew up scenery and like give myself some monologues and whatever and make something that's just like I can put in an acting reel and or whatever, you know. That wasn't this. It was I never, and it wasn't some like thing where it was even thought about on my end. It was just more like, all right, this is the movie we're making because it just feels like we got to make this movie. And then at the same time, I was like, I just got to service this, and I don't want to. And my only concern was just not sticking out like a sore thumb, and just fitting in their world, and that was it. I honestly think that's kind of got to be the approach for everything. You know, you don't want to ever do too much.
Yes.
Well, I don't care what you're playing, even if you're in the Odyssey. Like, you really just want to fit.
That's right.
Play your character. You do your job.
That's right.
If you just approach that way, you'll continue to work. People will recognize you, and
you will stand out. Then that's the ironic thing. You will stand out when you're trying not to stand out.
Right.
Because you're servicing the story.
Right.
And you service these two other guys.
Right. And I knew how interesting they were.
Yeah.
And I liked watching them. I mean, sometimes it was hard for me not to laugh when I was like just around them. Like, I was like, they're so funny. Like I could never I couldn't be as interesting as them if I tried. You know, it's like just like that's a dream character. Like
yes.
You know, playing Burt Berger or playing Steve is like, those are dream characters. And like, you're gonna play a guy Burt, you're gonna play a guy with Parkinson's, you're gonna be 70 years old, you're gonna be quirky and optimistic and like have the voice and
the heart.
And the heart.
The heart. You can't play the heart. If you play the heart, you get some actors to play a heart, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm out.
You to create that character would take, I'm not saying there's not an actor who could do it.
Right.
It would take the most brilliant actor of their generation, which we had no access to. So it's like I'm just trying to. There's like so few actors who could have done it, and even then it wouldn't have been as interesting.
No.
And so, look, I don't want to make every movie this way. Like,
no.
I really don't. But there's this one just feels like it needed to be them, and. That's the only reason I would have made the movie was just because of that. Like, if it's not for them, I don't make the movie. And really, if it's not for Burt, I don't make the movie. But even that, you know, I knew Burt for a long time before we pulled the trigger on this movie. And it was, for me, and Joe had told me he had hung out with Steve a couple times. He was telling me, dude, you got to meet this guy crazy. And so I was like, yeah, whatever. But it was, for me, it was actually going to their house. Because, look, you know, as a filmmaker, you go, I'm going to make a movie. It's so much fucking work because, you know, I'm not going to make any money on this.
Yeah.
It's going to be 3 years of fucking blood, sweat, and tears. Yes. And no one is going to give a shit.
Yeah.
I'm going to get so many blank emails back, you know, whatever. Yeah. And so it was for me, knowing all what I know, to pull the trigger on the movie, it was actually going to Steve's house and being like, who is this guy? And their dynamic, I was like, this is like, I don't feel like I should have access to this.
Yeah, right.
You know,
right.
like, I shouldn't be here right now.
Yeah.
Like, how am I here right now? Like, nobody's here. Like, 5 people have been in this guy's house in like 10 years. Wow. And I'm allowed in there and I'm allowed to film. Wow. I'm like, no one's making this movie. And that's another thing for me too, is like, because you think of, like, a lot of times it stops me as I think of an idea and I'm like, yeah, but like, there's so many movies that have done that and it's been done a million times and it's been done really well. I'm like, what am I bringing to that? I was like, this is one of those movies that nobody can make. There's nobody who can replicate this movie.
Yes, that's right.
And so, except for Joe and I, we were the only ones who had the access and the knowledge and the style in which we like to make movies fit this. You know.
And like I said, though, and it needs to be said again, even when you have access to these unicorns and you have the house.
Yeah,
you still could have fucked this up.
100%.
You know, so let's give yourself a little credit that you knew that how to do this right, and you knew how to act with them right. You knew how to play it, and how to not oversaturate this story or overcomplicate this story. You know, that was appreciated by me.
Oh, thank you.
Because I could sit there, I could rewatch this thing because of reasons like that. So people are listening to this, and they will have a chance to watch this movie then, right?
Yep, they can watch it on, Apple, Amazon. It's going to be also on Pluto and Tubi, so you can watch it for free on there with ads, which is not the best way to watch it. But
what about if somebody wanted loved it so much that they wanted to have you guys come to their little town and have a 1 or 2 night screening.
100%. We've done
This is what I'm talking about.
Our first year after so we didn't get in anywhere, and then all of a sudden we started to get into some festivals, and we won a lot of festivals. We won Phoenix, and we won CineQuest, and we won we got a jury prize in Florida, and so we were they were like middle tier film festivals, good middle tier film festivals, and we were winning them, and we were getting some love. And I was seeing like the reactions to people in the theater. I was like, people love this movie. Like, it's playing really well. And so I was like, Joe and I decided, let's go kind of do a little bit of a road show. And we went back to Ohio. We're from, sold out a 500-seat theater. Went to different places like in New York, and started reaching out to theater bookers ourselves, and like getting, or not theater bookers, actually reaching out to theaters, independent theaters. 50-50 split where we put the movie on, and some of them we would go to and do screenings. And like now, like, look, we're doing some like JCCs, or like kind of doing events out of it, and we'll come and do a Q&A and talk about the movie, and we're like, this is kind of a living, breathing thing that we're trying to find but we're open to all different ideas. And
that's a beautiful thing. And it's shot in beautiful black and white, so it has this timeless quality to it too. It doesn't feel like, it feels like this could be around for a while. Like you could have this come around again. It's not like some kind of a dated thing.
Right.
It feels completely timeless the way you guys did it. And I wish it
really
nothing but success. I want people to see this movie. Bert, go find it. Oliver Cooper, thank you so much. You need to come back on the show.
I would love to, anytime.
Thanks for listening. Subscribe at backtooonepodcast.substack.com, where you can listen to back episodes, engage with other listeners, and support the show.